Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk Trackmania. Excuse me there as I just got nearly entangled and killed by my headphone wire, but we welcome you back to LTT, our Let's Talk Trackmania once again. No idea what episode that is anymore. I've lost count. Someone will keep me right at some point, I'm sure. However, we are back once again. I'm your host, as always, TMScotsman, joined by Shorty and LuckersTurbo. Once again on Tuesday at the right time and at the right place. Big thanks also to Turbo for hosting the edition for us on short notice last week. However, Erwin is back with us. His internet is no longer kill, and we are ready to get underway with another week's worth of events and summary of what's happening in Trackmania over the last week. But as always seems to be going on to one thing. But just before we get underway, a big reminder that, as always, well, I suppose especially now that Erwin's back, the podcast is brought to you by esac.gg. Make sure to say that this time that he is back, because he might get angry at me and he can actually do something now that he has internet. So, how are you guys doing? Shorty, are you okay?
Well, I mean, I'm doing fine. I'm doing better again. I think, I don't know why, but the timing was perfect after last week's podcast. I was unable to sleep because my ear just hurt so badly. So instead of sleeping, I just directly went to a doctor in the morning, and apparently I had an inflammation in my ear. So that was great. Definitely can recommend that. But other than that, I think it's going uphill again. So yeah, it's just this time of the year where everyone gets sick. So it's not really unexpected and just happens. How are you, Kai?
Yeah, I'm okay.
How's your arm doing?
It's a bit stressy right now because there's some argumentation at home again, the usual. My mom sometimes is just exaggerating and whatever, but it's all good. Just trying to figure out some other things. I also upload the podcast to various other streaming platforms, to Spotify and stuff. But hey, I'm doing great. I cannot complain. It's just me that has to chill every now and then. Also tried to book my vacation today over the new year, but didn't really work out. There was an error occurred. You couldn't book it, so I cannot book the flight right now. So I don't know what to do. Maybe I have to travel to Frankfurt. I have no clue how I'm gonna make that. But hey, I'm doing great. How about you, Paul? How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I mean, I normally complain a lot. I just don't have as much to complain about this time, mostly because I don't really remember what's happened throughout the last week, to be honest. Yeah, fuck it. I had no idea. Probably not been that bad. Was out with the girlfriend over the weekend, so that was nice. Bought a lot of stuff while I was shopping. I'm not bankrupt yet, so that's a good sign. But yeah, Tuesdays always being a highlight of the week, and we are back on hand. Will be a little bit of a shorter edition today, with the times or the clocks going back. Has shifted me a little bit closer to my work meeting, which will take place roughly in just under an hour's time. But hopefully we'll get all of our discussions and all of our topics discussed at the very least, or touched upon at some point throughout today. Either that, or we will be back in future editions to catch up, and we'll see where we can get from there. But guys, what's your kind of touching point been for Trackmania this week? Have you guys been up to anything in particular? Noticed anything out of the ordinary? Anything caught your eye? Or is this another week's worth of Trackmania Grand League?
Trackmania Grand League is definitely a good way to talk about. But I think only, positive and negative facts there. Of course, the multiplier again is one thing that I would like to talk about. But other than that, I think Trackmania Grand League is just the main thing. Of course, Gamers Assembly is coming up. But else, not really.
I mean, the Trackmania week was actually great, because now with new PC, the game is running so much better than before. I didn't play the game also for 3 weeks, so I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more than before. I had the first stream yesterday again after quite some time. I also enjoyed that one. I played Ice, and I enjoyed playing Ice, actually. Interestingly enough. I don't know how that happened. But actually something that happened before TMGL. I don't think we should talk about it. But TMFL was very interesting, to say the least. I had a small discussion in the TMFL Discord, and I don't know if I might have not phrase things well to like cause it or not, but
What have you done?
I definitely did feel a little bit sideswiped by certain people there, with which I don't know. I didn't feel like they treated me nicely, but
Oh,
yeah.
Toby. Oh,
What have I missed?
Nah, it just was a small thing, you know. Like TMFL had a rain race, and like during the rain, like the thing with TMFL and rain is like you get like a sound cue that tells you, yeah, rain is coming, and then after like, I don't know, 1.5 minutes the rain is starting. But the thing is, then like the rain, then the visuals start, and after the visuals start, at some point the physics get changed to like a setting in between, and then at some point it changes to rain settings. The thing though is you don't really know when exactly that change is happening, and that can be quite dangerous, because like you instantly slide out when the rain settings happen, and if that happens in the turn and you don't save the turn before because you think, oh, it might happen here, you can in theory you can die basically because of that. And if you do, but the thing is, if you try to save, you lose multiple seconds. So it's really it's really like, it's somewhat important. So I was just after the rain race, I was maybe not in the best way mentioned it, but I just mentioned, hey, maybe it would be nice to have like some visual. I mean, I did say countdown, which obviously wouldn't be a good way of doing it, but it would be cool to know the exact moment when the change is happening, because you can account for that way better then. Because and I don't know why, but some people just went ham and went like, yeah, obviously, Shorty, can you ever be happy? Or that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, guys, what? I mean, what the fuck? So
Shorty, I'm not on your side there, because there is this big sign that is coming up when there's rain and when there's not. And can you also predict it in real life when rain is coming? Or
you cannot predict it in real life, but the thing in real life is it changes very gradual, and you can literally see it on the track. You can feel it on the track. In
you could also see it as a spectator.
You can
see it there.
But the sign is not coming before the sign. You mean the sign at the top, right?
Yeah, that is coming when the thing is changing.
Yes, the thing at the top is actually now I know it, that at the top is it's the thing at the top comes when the first change to like the mid part setting comes. But the thing is still that the change to the rear range settings is not predictable. And I don't legit. I don't think it's a big problem, because I don't suffer from it at all. Like, I literally don't suffer from it at all. But if it happens,
what are you discussing?
It's still a bad thing, and we can discuss it all day long. We don't have to go into the details. But the thing is, like, it's just a minor thing, but it's not. It's still not good the way you do it. It's
a free to play competition without a cash prize, bro.
Yeah, that doesn't mean
who cares?
Who cares? I just made a suggestion. People could have told, yeah, I don't like that suggestion point, but they just said, Shorty, can you ever be happy? Like, what? I mean, just tell me you don't like the idea, but just me making a suggestion based on something that I do think, and other people also agree with me about that it can be really, really punishing for something you can't predict. And just tell you don't like it like that. Just tell me you like that is unpredictable, and say that's the thing. But don't say, Shorty, can you ever be happy? Like, obviously I feel attacked with that, right? Like, what the fuck? I just made a small suggestion. Have you guys know
Shorty sometimes is happy? And fuck you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a minor thing, you know. I really, like, the thing I got upset about the most was not that they disagreed with me, but the way they like spoke with me. Like, I mean, yes, I know I make a lot of suggestions, but I don't make them baseless, you know. There's a reason why I made that, even if I don't feel strongly about that change. But there was a reason why I suggested it, because you can suffer from it, you can die from it in theory, you know. Like, you can disagree with me, that's fine, but no, you can. Well, in TMFL, in the race, you can die because of it, but not in real life, obviously. But still.
Well, that depends on how far back in Formula One's archives you go, if you can die from that or not. But I mean, like, just to, because
some guy literally lost over 10 seconds with that, just because he was in the turn. Like, it was at least, you know. It was
But
just a suggestion.
Here's the thing, right? This whole shit about it being rainier, whatever, when it triggers, whatever the issue is not the problem. In this case, the problem is the fact that how it's been dealt with, you know? And it's, I suppose in some cases people are used to like, oh, I have a problem, I'm going to make a suggestion, and it goes to like, you know, this is where the whole meme from my channel came with the Nadeo support requests, you know? You would submit a request to Nadeo about some sort of issue you would have, and it would be ignored. So the whole meme is that the Nadeo support request does nothing. However, on the other side of things, you know, having someone who is responding to these sort of things negatively and kind of, you know, promoting that kind of environment obviously isn't great. But let's just hope that that gets better in future, shall we?
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal, let's be honest. But just
one of those things.
If you ask me what happened in the week, that's definitely a thing that just comes up to my mind again.
Well, there you go. There you go. If Shorty's angry, I want to hear about it, so we can all come to Shorty's defense, and both online and real life. I'll be Shorty's white knight. I'm happy to do that. You know, any time and any day. You know, I'm game. But before I get too sidetracked into my my crusades, shall we say, I suppose the only fit track that this brings us into, which I mean always seems to be during this time that we end up talking about, is Trackmania Grand League, and as the week's happening, and of course we have the Open Grand League, we have the Trackmania Grand League Challenger Edition, and we have the Trackmania Grand League main event itself. So any opening thoughts as to anything that stood out to you guys, any more than usual that we're annoyed about or happy about, or that we've noticed that we're satisfied about? What's happening in this week's Trackmania Grand League?
The point system is great. That's my most positive thought this week.
Wait, is that ironic or not?
It's up to you. No, so yeah, it was a good step actually. I really liked the last map that we had. This step was a really good one. Also a skilled map.
I really liked the different lines. That was awesome to watch.
Exactly, I agree with that. But again, there is the flaw in the points, because we have seen with and without multiplier. I think Eric has posted that, and seeing Granadi and Pack being on par in points, and Granadi being first and Pack being 11th. Yeah, that's like, it's way too dank. Yeah, and
a little bit, you know.
Yeah, like one good step and you kind of in. We see that with Afi, with Massa, and also with Aurel. They all have gotten themselves 300 plus steps. And then Granadi, the only player who really, for me, is deserved there in the top 3. Of course, the others are as well. They had a fantastic step. But Granadi just played very consistent, has gotten himself, I think, in every step a multiplier. Yep. And then there are players like Carl Jr. who just went for the ×2 twice. And then in the other step, he didn't get it. And he's like consistent chilling together with Muda and all the others. So it's like, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. Let's say it like that. It's a weird state of mind that we're in right now, because the system is working out as they wanted to, but well, everyone can still make it in step 8. Even a player like Worker who can be behind. I hope that he will perform. I think he also got himself the first multiplier in this Sunday, but still, it's like very questionable, and for me it's still too much. But of course, that's what Nadeo wants. They want to create a show, they want to create tension. We had that topic already, blah blah blah. We're not going to talk about that again. But I also think that the map that has been released for step 4, which is called, what's the launch pad is the name, yeah, also looks very good, very skill based, compared to the map with the pipes. That one was
yeah, that map.
Yeah, that one was a bit questionable. Also, seeing the gaps in the Trackmania Grand League Challenger step was huge. But the last 2 maps were really nice. Really, really good maps, to be honest.
I still don't really know about the new map, because that identity looks pretty tough, to be honest. But I don't know yet. Is it not?
Hard. No, it's not too hard.
I just saw people suffer on stream, so I have no idea how hard
I watched mine. He wasn't suffering. He was just being a mogus.
Yeah, well, okay, we will see. We will see about that. But the map itself, like the route and stuff, looked pretty nice. Also using plastic for once. like in an actual turn. That also was it the first map that actually did that? I think so, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Even Bernardo didn't touch that. He just uses plastic in different ways. No, the maps are actually like not my style at all compared to before, but some of the maps are really great in terms of how exciting they are to watch, and they are still playable. For example, Banana map, in my opinion, was a really great map. Also, the Kiesler one and the new one now might also be pretty great. But if we learned anything from this step, it's that spam is kinda rightfully sad. Like, holy shit! I don't know if you saw the Twitter
2000s, yeah.
But oh my god.
He also didn't sleep that well and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right? But oh my.
It's just sad to see that.
Yeah,
for like such a good performance, then we just get behind.
Yeah. Yeah, we just went from a system that is way too punishing to a system that is way too rewarding. I mean, I guess it is a step forward, you know. It's better than before. But I don't know. It still feels wrong for something like that. Even if it's a show like this, I would be fine if it would be like that. But then again, it's the biggest event Trackmania has to offer, and I just don't like the fact that the biggest event is this. Like if TMGL would just be a side event with this kind of format just for the show, everything would be fine.
Play. What?
No, yeah, but maybe people would probably still play.
Nah, they would, of course.
Because then you go into it with a completely different mindset as well. You know, you can just enjoy it because that's not your main thing. But the fact that Trackmania with this kind of show format is the main tournament is just what ruins it for me. Because like I want to see pro esports, and I don't want to see that show being the biggest quote unquote esports event, because it's still somewhat esport. But I don't know. At least my boy Granadi is going strong, so I guess I can be happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I kind of look at Trackmania Grand League, I think you put it good in the kind of way, Shorty, that it's way too rewarding, whereas the old one was way too punishing. But I'll be honest, I don't really feel it's any better than the old system at all. And here's the thing, right? It may be more bearable to play and to kind of less frustrating to watch. But here's the thing about this system, right? I don't feel any map matters apart from the last one. Honestly, I've kind of been switched off a little bit from Trackmania Grand League. I mean, it's no secret that I'm not as involved in the game, but I mean, I don't feel... All I really care about is loading up map 5, saying, okay, these people have this amount of points, and the last map is where all the final positions are decided. You know, because I have someone who dominated the final, the entire step, barely even scraping into the top 8 just through the nature of how the multipliers are going to treat them. You know, I'm not into that. You know, it's the same as the points loss system for me, but I feel less incentivized to watch the rest of the step, because the entirety of what matters in the step always seems to happen at the very end. You know, apart from, of course, you need a base level of points to be able to work from that, but people are going to accumulate that at some points throughout the rest of the thing anyway. That's the part I don't like about it, and that's the part I don't agree with when we talk about it being a more show-based format, as I feel less and less incentivized the more I see this format to watch anything but the end of it.
I also have some things that I would like to talk about concerning that exact format, because things that I really have seen in the past steps was that it was random. It was random who gets third, second, first, sometimes of course, but who gets the multiplier. That was the random fact for me, because then you had a player like Otak, for example, not finishing around. You had a player very hesitant of finishing or not. You know, you had a player who maybe made a mistake. So then there was only one player left. I think Scrappy on that second step, if I was recalling it correctly, no one was behind him. He took the ×5 because everyone has made a mistake.
Yep.
Wasn't a good winning time. Those things, it's like you cannot predict who's winning a step.
That's why Trackmania doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah. And that's like the whole spirit of Trackmania goes away if a player like Otak, who's very fast, but then all of a sudden is first and he decides to not finish, the goal for me in Trackmania is to be as fast as possible and to have the motivation. And I can understand why a player like has no motivation to play this one, because they know that at the end they're racing against 16 players and maybe they don't get the run here, because when you practice for a competition, yeah, you're also not gonna make everyone a good one. Yeah, it can take some time. So it is very, very harsh. And for me, it's still, yeah, unpredictable. Of course, the better players tend to perform good and they have more points before the 2-lapper version. But still, who gets the multiplier? That's very, very, yeah, not random, but unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, it's also weird if you think about it. At some point, like if Nadio really wants to keep the show aspect of it, I think at some point maybe it just doesn't work to call it endurance anymore, and the 6 lappers don't even make sense, because every kind of format I'm thinking about trying to like keep the points that Nadio wants in there with the way they have the multiplications or stuff like that. It just never works with keeping the 6 lappers. But the way it is right now, like you basically have an endurance competition that is decided by just one single round at the end. Like, I don't want to say that Massa, for example, doesn't deserve it, because he played well in all the other maps as well, right? But apart from the last map where he got the times 5, he never had even one round where he was contending for it.
He was going for his alternative line, which was cool to see, but
it was cool to see, but he always failed it, and maybe he would have had a couple of more rounds where it would have been close. But like seeing that somebody like Spam that obviously consistently was faster, that a lot of other players doesn't get anything. Also Pack, you know, like it's an endurance format, you know, and people that are consistently fast don't get rewarded by it. It's super weird.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense there, and that's where the system is flawed. Of course, the aspect again, it's the entertainment factor, but I would also not categorize it as endurance, because you kind of have two different parts. I really like the fact to like praise the format, the gap between P8 and P9. That is a good thing. Also for holding tension and stuff. Maybe it's a bit too big, that what you can declare, but still you get points for the top 8. That is a cool thing, and you kind of have to be like twice in the top 8 to get a good multiplier. Like 30, 40 points is the way you want to look into, at least to go into a multiplier round, to also overtake people who didn't get one, you know. But still, it's like 2 rounds or 2 laps are deciding way too much, and yeah, it's debatable. And yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts about that, Paul? Is that something that you agree with, that you disagree with, or?
I mean, I think there's always going to be ways a system can be improved, and I mean, I can't remember a tournament which has came out with a perfect system, one that I don't think could be improved. And if we're honest, Nadio never really has had a system without controversy. It feels like in Trackmania Grand League, there's always been something. But again, we put that down to what their goal within the tournament is, you know, what aim they're trying to achieve. So, I mean, this might be the best call for their preference as to how they want to shape their tournament going forward. But like I said, and I've said this many a time, I feel more and more at distance with what Nadio is trying to achieve and what I want to see, you know. That may be just me as, you know, an ex-player. You know, I've played a lot of top-level competitions in my time because that's what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't want to play shows. Well, I mean, I would have played them, of course, but that wasn't my priority, was going into something to play what the flashiest event was, or what the event was with the biggest names or whatever. You know, it's a bit different in that kind of sense. But I think there's a lot that Trackmania can improve upon with their system, even if they do want to go for a more show-heavy focus. But, I mean, yeah, will we see it? Will we not? I mean, because we can debate the fucking point system and the format until the end of time. It may just be that this is their format and they're going to bring something wild out of the bag that, again, you know, we haven't seen before, but will or will not work out. You know, it just seems to be at least Trackmania Grand League has went through a cycle so far, and I'd hope at least going forward they do manage to find their identity. As one part I think is quite important about Trackmania Grand League is that while its maps are always consistently having some form of identity, I don't feel Trackmania Grand League really has its own identity in that kind of sense. I mean, some seasons it's tried to present itself as more of a competition. Sometimes it's been purely focused on the show. I mean, we think back at how much of a joke some of the beta seasons maps were when we think about the competitive nature of them, of course.
Yeah. Through those 16 seconds map or something, right?
Yeah, there was maps like that. There was maps where, I mean, the players were having an excruciating time just trying to, you know, wring some sort of consistency out of it, but also in the fact that Trackmania Grand League is going through these wild changes, you know, season after season, and it shows that they don't feel what they've got is exactly right, but also in the kind of sense, what is Trackmania Grand League? I don't feel it has its set identity yet, because it keeps having to change, because everything they come up with, it seems to be no one's happy with.
I think the main problem is with the format that Nadio. It's not like that we don't want the same thing. Like, I think we and Nadio, we do kind of want the same thing. I think what Nadio wants is something that is both fair for the players and exciting to watch at the same time. I think the main problem is that just for once that's not possible with the way things are, especially with endurance, because endurance is just made to be about the endurance and the consistency, and you can't make it exciting if you like force point loss or points gain in it in these kind of senses, you know. And I think the problem is that the only thing is that Nadio thinks the the exciting part is more important than like the fairness, and we probably think the other way around, you know. Like, for us it would be cooler if it would be a fair competition, and if it's a little bit less exciting, if you even can call that less exciting with a fair system, because it's just exciting in other ways, right? But I think that's just the main difference there is, because I don't think Nadio wants the system to be unfair, and obviously Nadio wants people to be happy with the system, right? I think it's just the problem that if you have like an endurance format and you try to force a system on it that's like exciting, you just can't create something that is fair at the same time.
I mean, if I can just have a little bit of a take here, that something I think is an important perspective when we talk about the excitement level of you know, of Trackmania Grand League, and I remember someone making this point a few weeks ago. I don't remember who it was, and I don't remember in what connection it was with, but why did we get past the point where players, or how did we get past the point where players competing at the top level and just a general competition wasn't exciting enough? You know, how did we get to that point where we have now had to go for this, you know, what initially was put down to a Zerator influence from people having, you know, these are having to, you know, crowbar these wild, in some cases a bit, you know, stupid identities into their maps. You know, having a perfectly reasonable map. You know, there's been plenty of decent maps out there in Trackmania Grand League. Some of them have had their identities improve them, but the majority of the time their identity has decided to full map itself. But how did we get past the point where something like just a general multi-style format, you know, doesn't have to be, you know, a pantomime, wasn't exciting enough, you know? Because here's the thing, right? Here's how I would illustrate this, right? How many Trackmania Grand League steps have you thought to yourself, fuck, I need to go back and watch that? You know, that was really exciting. I want to go back and watch that. Or you've referred a Trackmania Grand League step to your friend because, oh, that was really exciting. You know, this generally doesn't, I don't see this thing happening, you know, and this isn't me just talking within my own, like, friend circle of old fucking boomers and all that shit. It's not like that. I'm more talking about, like, what I've seen of people publicly, either in public discords, you know, through people I don't talk to, people I don't know. They're not talking, they're talking about the intensity of the moment, but once that moment's over, you're not going back to relive it, you know? You're going back to relive and watch something that was exciting, you know? And in my kind of terms, whenever I've saw someone referring something, think back to why we have ever spoke about like performances of the year or event of the year or online event of the year. We talk about it having we talk about events which have left us with a lot of replayability. Events that we do like going back and watching. And I mean, personally, I like going back and watching some of the best matches of all time, but I rarely find myself saying I would like to go back and watch a Trackmania Grand League step. Some cases I would like to go back and watch the playoffs because I feel that's a much more competitive format. But I feel the excitement factor for Trackmania Grand League, it's very artificial in its group stage and in its league stage. And I feel that could be improved upon a lot. You could keep people watching throughout the step a lot, and you get, a small retention rate of people who want to go back and watch that kind of stuff, It's not going to be a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but I think that's an important part of your content, is if people aren't interested in going back to watch your, a big part of your tournament other than to get up to speed on what's happened, then, I find myself identifying that as a small problem because, of course, the main thing is having people watching at the time, but a little bit of an issue nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. It's if I think about what would I show somebody, I would definitely not show somebody TMGL. And even if the thing is, like, even if something is really exciting in TMGL, let's take for example like the current step, because the last couple of rounds were really close and exciting. Then I would still, if I would want to rewatch, I would never watch the maps before, because like the match for me doesn't start there. It's just so split up in those two different ways. It's like it doesn't feel like the first four maps still belong to the step itself. If you look at it from like if I think back to it now, I just think of those two rounds, and I would not want to watch the full match. But if I would think about like a really close final match, for example, from Gamers Assembly, I would watch the whole match, because the whole match matters for it. Like it just the moment, like the hype builds itself in the match. And I don't know, like looking back at the TMGL step, I would never watch the whole step again, because why the fuck would I? It doesn't matter anyway. It's just the end, the last couple of rounds. Of course, it's exciting to watch, because like the fact that it does get decided at the end does obviously matter, but it could be so much more if the whole thing mattered,
Yeah,
because
the
then
whole
you could,
thing.
yeah, instead of just watching and waiting for the fifth map, you would just enjoy it before already, because then like the tension would build itself up naturally instead of artificially with something like the point scan at the end. Like the point scan at the end is just artificial. It's obviously it's exciting, but artificial excitement is way worse than natural excitement. And I think Trackmania already had all the excitement it needs to have.
Yeah, of course, some matches were decided already beforehand, like when you had a player just being good on a map and you can see, oh yeah, he has world record, but then still things happen, he still has to win a round, and also not on an identity.
Even if you have a world record, like, you can see it in the fifth map, like, you can be as fast as you want, but it's still difficult to win rounds. Making crashes is easy. It doesn't matter how fast you are.
Yeah, that's what I also mean. And of course, identities have become a bit more consistent. Paul, you were talking about the maps. I remember the map with the dirt jump where you had to jump through the sculptures or something in beta season. Maybe you remember that as well. It was like a very hard identity. Not that it was bad, but it was just very inconsistent. Maybe it was also bad to play. I haven't played the map, but I think you get the gist. And I agree with that. A match has to build up artificially, and right now you're just like, and I was also talking to Ari about that, and of course she has a kind of new view to that, but she was like, well, everything doesn't really matter. Of course, you have to get into the top 8, but yeah, it's just boring, and then it's getting good. She's also not really into Trackmania, but don't get me wrong, it's just only the last couple of rounds that decide, and then you have the ×2. Yeah, okay, who takes that? The people with 30 points. Okay, Carl Jr. is taking it. Oh, Mime is taking that. That's then a surprise.
Then
×3. ×3 is then cool to watch. In my opinion, the best rounds. ×4 and ×5 is just, either I have practiced or either I have so much pressure on my hands, and that is like, It's the tension is built up, but artificially, and you can really feel it. Of course, it's cool. I can also like hype it up and feel the players and feel the groove in that, but it's not like that the whole match is decided by that, because you already know that it's not scaling. So your points, of course, you still have to multiply them at the end, and not you get 10 points and you have to multiply them in cup mode. That's not the case. It's like, I don't like it that much as well, this multiplier thing, because it's all going down towards that.
I'll be honest, at this point, I think the way with having 6 maps or 5 maps or 4 maps or whatever with 6 lappers, I don't like the format at all in general. Because even if you would take the point loss away, I think I would still not like it that much. Which is maybe why that you started doing these kind of weird things. Because having it split on different maps with the maps not being connected to each other is just weird for an endurance format. It would be better if you would have, for example, only one map that would be played long or something like that, because then it's still like the same feeling. But it's just because you have those multiple maps with 6 lappers, and it feels split up as well, because take the point loss away, take take both the point loss away and take the points gain away. I would probably, it would be boring probably, I think.
Yeah.
Like I can see when idea is trying to like have these formats, because I agree that without them it would be boring, because like having different maps being not connected to each other and just driving all of them after each other and getting points like that is just not exciting in general. It's just not a good way of doing endurance, in my opinion.
But I think that's just the best format that you can have with 16 players. Yeah, that is just. I mean, you cannot play cup mode with 16 players. That would also be like very. It doesn't really work too well. I have casted matches with 8 players or something like that. Of course, you can tailor it around, but I see why they're going for also this huge point gap. But yeah, well, then we can also talk about probably the worst thing, even next to Trackmania, granted, in my opinion, the clash time. Yeah, which.
Oh, can we please just get rid of that shit thing?
I don't like. It's a cool idea.
The idea is cool. Yes, I agree.
That's fact.
Yeah.
But then 50% of the cars should work as well, because my team doesn't work. So clash time is that the Twitch chat is controlling the car, but what people don't know is that some cars don't work. For example, from my team, I'm casting for Pack. Second step, my car went press forward together with Scrappy, and we won. Like, what was that? That was like weird. And also the chat is not connected to the car, so the car is only going forwards, which is the movement by default. And yeah, it only it's so weird. I don't know.
Yeah, let's be honest, clash time ceased to be relevant as soon as I stopped winning it.
It was never relevant. It's like really a bad thing to have.
I remember they changed it after like the first or second one, which we won 2 in a row, just saying. Because like, additionally you had like, you didn't have a max speed, so if
you had the max speed at the beginning, the max speed at the beginning was 100, and now they
it was higher again if they've took it down. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice idea, but don't get me wrong, one thing I think is important is definitely to make sure the players have a break, which they don't need to play in. Like good, at the moment they have breaks, but it's just a warm up. And one of the most important things when going into a new map in Trackmania is to get yourself up to speed on it, because this isn't like Counter-Strike where you've played on these same 7 active duty maps for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. You know them inside out. The only thing you're getting up to speed on is like your aim, your team play and things like that. Things that don't depend on, the few minutes before the match. Whereas with Trackmania, you've not spent as much time on these maps. You've spent a lot of time on the map pack in general, but on the maps themselves, you'll have spent, I mean, maybe some people have spent something like 20 hours on one map or something like that. There is some cases where that might be, someone's no-lifing, but generally it's probably going to be less than that. So after playing a map that's probably quite different to that, you want to use those 1 or 2 minutes before a map you've got as get back into the flow of that track again. Get back into the game, get your head onto what is required for this next track. So the players don't really have a break. They only have a break if they want to put themselves at a kind of mini disadvantage there. So that's the only thing I like Clash Time for, to be honest. I mean, I like the idea of having audience participation, and it's a lot fucking better of an idea than having random crowd all over the track as a term of audience participation. But I mean, I think there's potentially better ways that this could be done. Extend the support system of it felt like there's just random amounts of hearts appearing on everyone else's channels or sorry, in game and stuff like that. There's a lot better ways this can be done, but I do think it is important to enforce some sort of break for the players, both so that they can cool down a bit, and also, I mean, they made the efforts before about removing the amount of new maps per week and removing the amount of maps in general per week to make it easier on the players, yet there's better ways to do that, I would feel, and it's just simply to give them a few minutes breather. This would be the time in other events where you would, I mean, look at, I've got the Counter-Strike major on for most of this day. In between a map, they have a break where they'll go back and talk to the desk for a few minutes, and if they'll run some sponsors and stuff like that. Like whatever it is that you're going to be using to fill time. There's a lot of ways that this can be done, and I feel that shoehorning in a Clash Time and giving people fucking 2 minutes to warm up in the map isn't really, we could be doing better, to be honest.
Yeah, Clash Time. The main problem with Clash Time is, in my opinion, it's not a bad. The idea is good, but it just doesn't work. Imagine if you could actually control it somewhat well, and it would be somewhat interesting, then it would be cool, right? Because then you would have some sort of weird chat fight against each other, but it's just blind people driving, basically. That's what it looks like. It's just painful to do. It's just painful to watch. It's painful to sit there. Yeah, that's the thing. I like the idea, but it just doesn't work well. Sadly, maybe it doesn't work. That's just what that's just the conclusion you have to make from it, and you'd have to just find something better.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just get rid of that, get a main cast, and get rid of the 16. I'm of course kidding. Well, yeah.
Can you ever be happy?
I can.
I like that.
I like that as well. But yeah, I mean, what can I say about that? It's harsh. It's a good idea, but a poor translation if it doesn't work. Also, yeah, we were talking to them that it doesn't work. They didn't change it. I don't know. Hopefully it works again, but next time I'm gonna grab a beverage.
That's what you mean if it doesn't work. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So every time when the Clash Time was, and I figured out that the car is not working, I just left the room. Was shouting, and then I joined in again. That's what I did. No, of course, kidding. I just grabbed myself a Lipton iced tea or a Paulaner Spezi, came back and enjoyed the show, and didn't watch Pack because Pack wasn't playing. Not sure what the issue is. I hope they can fix it. Could be cool for them, but I think they should focus on other things than Clash Time in this regard. Maybe have some sort of analysis that you can do. Maybe some sort of highlights from the first 2 maps that you can implement there, or some key facts.
Yeah, well, in theory you would want to do something like that, right? But somebody has to record the highlights.
Yeah, but things like that would be cool, like that they just clip somewhere and then see, okay, yeah, this happened, and one highlight from each stream, and you can just click that, boom, have that source connected. You have an overlay for that, and then you just check that out, or go just into a room where everyone has there are plenty of options. Clash Time is a good idea to also build up a somewhat rivalry, or a fan feeding, because you see the most chat activity during the Clash Time. It is just what it is, but it is just not a good thing. Too much effort for the streamers? Actually, I don't think so. It's not a lot of effort to do that. if like someone comes into there and clips, but then of course we have too many casts again. So maybe that's also one of the issues. And also, like, for example, from my org, Dan is always in the chat and he's clipping the best moments. So yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's possible, yeah. And if you see, okay, this player's made a mistake, then the Nadio employee just goes into there and is like, okay, yeah, what happened here? Let's clip this, boom, put it in. Then you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 highlights on the first map, on the second map, and you can talk about them.
It would be doable. Let's be honest.
Yep.
You would have to think about how exactly to make the structure of it, but it's definitely something that is doable, even with the amount of streams right now. It doesn't have to be the streamers themselves that have to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a little bit ridiculous if the streamers were asked to do it, to be honest, since, I mean, it's like we always spoke about before, you know, with the production value, how we kind of felt like, you know, casters are already asked to do, like, you know, put up the stream themselves, do the cast themselves, present all these scenes and all the rest of that, and then worry about clipping and fucking doing all the rest of that shit for everything else, you know. I would just prefer it that, you know, if that is a priority, I mean, it's quite easy to load up the clips channels for, you know, whatever channel it is you want to focus on and kind of take it from there, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, not a priority, but I mean, it would be nice to see something like that implemented, and, you know, maybe something like even something to go out just as the event finishes for the day. You know, something they run just after the main broadcast, for example, although for that you would kind of have to have it handled by someone outside. Like, for example, that would be, if we were to do something like that in the podcast, say, I don't know, the amount of times Scotty swore or something like that, Erwin clips all of it while we're talking, you know, while we're doing everything, and he loads that up on the side, if that was even possible for him. I have no fucking idea. And then does it after the events, you know, the event's done. Whereas if I had to do that, I couldn't do that while I'm sitting here talking to everyone, you know, and I'm trying to discuss points and all the rest of that. You need to have some sort of separation there. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of ideas that can be made. You know, I've liked the kind of progression, you know, when they done the highlights and stuff like that, but I mean, there's a lot to go, I think.
Yeah, you have the highlight video like on Wednesday coming out now, the top 10, also good idea. Yeah, maybe also include the community with submitting, let them submit something, that there's a voting going on, you know, with the top 10 moments. Of course, then it's getting a popularity contest again, like awards. But yeah, like you can also like try to embrace the community there. I don't know, something like that. Of course, it's still good, and I think the ranking is very, very valued in this regard. But yeah, it's like there are plenty of things that can go better, also with the production value, as you said. And yeah, SOK, I agree that he's doing everything on the mainstream. Of course, like for me as a streamer, I'm doing everything on my own as well. With the scene change, their stream deck is really important to have, if you ask me. Like a stream deck is vital as a caster.
For TMGL, probably. I wouldn't know how to do it without.
Yeah, I mean, I just have if I just check here, I have a scene TMGL. I have like 12 different things, and then I also have a folder with 10 things in there, and then I can just use them and see that. It's of course, you have to notice you have to know what you have to do, but it's very important to have that. With that, you run into less difficulties. So I can just recommend everyone who is casting, get a stream deck. I don't have any issues with like changing scenes. Sometimes it's just that I don't disable one scene, and then I'm like, for example, if I have a map preview and then go into intermission, that the map preview plays again because I didn't change it. But hey, that's just what it is. But it's just it's doable. But of course, as you said, Paul, just having someone behind that who is editing or like just cropping out the clip, that would be so much better. Yeah, and we've tried those things already.
Yeah, and I mean, we spoke a lot about, you know, kind of issues we have with the way a kind of general step plays out, but just to kind of, you know, our closing thoughts for today and to kind of round off this week's worth of Trackmania Grand League anyway, what's your guys' overall impression been of this week's results coming in from this week's steps, either in the Challenger League, you know, whatever it is that's caught your eye in terms of how people have performed, or you know, how the point system has treated people.
Random.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the last map, you know, the results themselves don't surprise me too much, except from Pack still not getting something. It's just, it does feel somewhat random. You know, that's maybe a thing that we didn't have before, even though the system before was more punishing.
Yeah.
But it was less random, quote unquote. You know, obviously it's not really random, but if you ever played matches, then you know some rounds are just horrible, some rounds are just for some reason really awesome. It's just somewhat random who wins each round. The more players you have, the more random it gets in those kind of senses.
Yeah, because as I said, that was like my observation from this week. It feels like some rounds are easier to win than others, and especially in the ×3 round when just one player makes a mistake. When there's another one making a mistake, maybe he has to push it, and then the gaps are all of a sudden 4 seconds. Like it is weird, and you can be the lucky person. Of course, you can go into that and try to not risk too much, but then of course there's always this one player who's just rocking away and having like the start of his life. Because with 16 or then also 12 players, it just happens. There will be one player that is faster than you, like theoretically. Of course, if you're correct on the map, of course, then not. But I think for the more average players, this is the case, and especially in Trackmania Grand League, where the skill gap is not as big as in Trackmania Grand League Challenger. That for me was my observation, and also that the player is not giving their best is also like very problematic in a competition like that we don't see Carl Jr. in front. Like that is something that we have not seen. Of course, he will recover, and also of course the point multiplier. It doesn't feel that punishing, but it kind of is, because now you don't lose points, but you cannot multiply them. So it's like the same in green, and it would be like if you just lose your points at the end of the map, not getting the ×5 with a good step, kind of, because you need that at the end.
Yeah, I guess that's basically the main point, you know. The system, it's just, the way it is, it's just very devastating to know that the best player won't be winning it. It's just a fact. The best player won't be winning it, because it would be very unlikely that the best player would be winning it, because you can see it with Carl Jr. Because you can't go for... It's impossible to go for the multiplier. It's impossible to do that.
Yeah. And also a good player, if you ask me, would never ever, in my opinion, would never go for the ×4 or ×5. He would also go for the ×3.
Yeah, everyone is going for that basically.
Yeah, ×2 is okay. Yeah, you know, you can also underline just an above average step with like 60 points and then multiply by 2. We have seen it from Carl on that first step. But then ×3, you know, 40 points, being one last time in the top 8, or even only one time and then just getting a fast slap, you know, you get the point. It just, I don't know, it's like it's unbalanced in this way, and it should not feel like that. But of course, if it's a show, then it's okay, but it should not feel like...
I mean, there's prize value on the line, so calling it a show is just an interesting excuse, you know. I mean, it's just for the playoffs still, obviously, but...
Yeah, for the playoffs, which is one of the biggest esports events after the World Cup.
The thing is, like, the playoffs are so well, you know, the system of the playoffs works so great, everything is cool with that, but for some reason, just the steps are just, somehow fucked up every single time in one way or another.
I mean, I'd take Shorty's point there, just to close things off, and I'd say that it is important, you know, to take into account the fact that, of course, that it's meant to be a show, but you can't just continually use that as an excuse for, you know, making things that either don't work, you know. I mean, you can argue for it being better for the show, but that doesn't mean we should constantly kind of excuse what's going wrong as just, oh yeah, it's just because it's just a show, you know. The multiplayer's really fucked, oh well, it's just a show, you know, or it's not fair, so the players aren't really playing it, it's just a show, you know. Like, you can't constantly keep making excuses for Trackmania Grand League, and I feel that's something that, you know, people are kind of conditioned to do with, is it feels like everything, there's always a reason something bad is being implemented, you know what I mean? Like, points loss is bad, but it's a show, you know. Points multiplier
next time as well
is bad, but
guys, it's a show, guys.
But yeah, you know what I mean?
I don't think that did Nadir already like made a statement about what people think about the new system. I mean, it sounds like we're bashing Nadir unreasonably hard every single week for it, but we just want to make clear that we don't like the system for these certain points. And not saying Nadir did bad. You know, at the beginning we were actually like kind of anticipating it to be kind of not bad, the system, right? But just after seeing it, we now know that the system is worse than we thought it would be. And Nadir just hopefully also agrees with that, and then they can change again. You know, like you can't blame Nadir for trying a new system with a good idea. You know, the idea about the system was great. No reason to say Nadir did a bad job with that. It just didn't work out as well as maybe Nadir hoped, we hoped, or maybe even anticipated. And we just hope that Nadir can see that as well and change accordingly, hopefully.
For sure. But yeah, it will be a little bit of a shorter podcast for today, as the issues I did go over at the start of the show. But we will be back next week once again. Same time, same place. However, we may be pushing things a little bit earlier, but we will discuss that and we'll update you as and when that becomes more confirmed. But in the meantime, we hope everyone certainly enjoys the rest of their evening. Clocks have went back, so hopefully a bit more time with your evening. Certainly no, I don't, because I've got a meet to go to. But nevertheless, everyone enjoy the rest of your night. This has been your latest episode of Let's Talk Trackmania, brought to you by, of course, Shorty, myself, and LuckersTurbo. This will be uploaded also onto other platforms. I'm sure Turbo can keep you updated on that moving forward. But if not, just keep an eye on the social feeds for both each one of us and ESAC.gg to keep an eye on what everyone here is going to be involved in future. But that has been it from all of us for tonight, for this week's Tuesday. See you all later on, and good night from all of us.
Good night.
Bye.